Hi class. So today we'll be doing combining random variables exercise. Okay. So let's um, let's dive it in. So let's read the question. So Andy and Jim are going to compete in the 100-meter dash against each other, right? So let A be the time it takes Andy to complete the race, and J be the time that it takes Jim to complete the race. So there are two random variables here, right? So A and J, they are the two random variable. A for Andy, J for Jim to complete the race, right? The time it takes to finish the race. Based on previous results, they know that, see the mean of A, right? The mean of A is 11.5 seconds and the standard deviation is 1 second. They also know that mean of J, right, is 10.5 seconds and the standard deviation is zero point 0.5 seconds. Assume that their times are independent. Let D be the difference between their times in a random 100-meter dash. So here, this is a new random variable, right? We're combining the random variable now, combining two different random variables to actually state that, right? So D equals to A minus J. So find the mean. Now, if it's just finding the mean, so let's write down the formula here. So D is the difference equals to A minus J. And then to find mean of D is to find the mean of A minus the mean of J. Right? It's that simple. So mean of A is 11.5 minus mean of J is 10.5, and that gives us 1. So the mean is 1. So mean of D is 1. And let's see if this is correct. If it's wrong, it's Brittany's fault. Yes. Okay. Pause, and then I'll continue. All right. Sorry for the interruption. Let's continue. Next question. Right. This is to find the mean of the difference D. Next question is, all right, a new question. A factory process requires 3 steps, right, to finish a product. The steps each have a mean completion time of mean equals to 10. So there are 3 steps, and each step has its own mean time, right, of 10 seconds, and a standard deviation of 5 seconds. So the time it takes to complete each step is independent from the other steps. So let T be the total completion time of the 3 steps on a randomly chosen product. So, all right. So here, oh, oh, oh. All right. So let's, okay. So you have the T, right? Random variable, and it has 3 steps, right? 3 steps. So step 1, step 2, step 3. 3 steps, which means each random variable, right? Consider them a random variable, right? Consider them a random variable, random variable, random variable. Okay, which means each random variable has a mean, right? Each random variable has a mean, it has a mean. So all you have to do is add those up. And the mean is what? Mean is 10, right? So 10 plus 10 plus 10. So the mean is 30 seconds. All right, that wasn't too bad, right? It's finding the standard deviation that will be a little bit tricky. But we're not asked that here. We're asked to find the mean. So, all right, 30. Woo-hoo. Okay, next question. Here we're asked to find the standard deviation. So Ahmad and Bryson are in a long-term fitness challenge that involves counting how many calories they consume. on daily basis. Let A equals to number of calories Ahmad consumes daily, and B equals to number of calories Bryson consumes daily. Based on previous data, they know that the mean of Ahmad, the number of calories is 2,200 calories, and the standard deviation is 300. They also know that the mean of the number of calories for Bryson is 2,400 calories, and the standard deviation is 400. Assume that their daily, right, the daily calorie counts are independent, and let D be the difference between the number of calories each consume on a regular selected day. So, right now, before I even look at the question, well, too late now. They asked us to find the standard deviation of D. Oh, sorry, the standard deviation is not that simple. Standard deviation of D is this. Standard deviation of D. Okay. All right. Now, so the formula is D equals to B minus A. If we are asked, I'm not saying that that's the case here. If we are asked to find the mean of D, it will be the mean of B minus the mean of A. It's that simple, right? You take the 2,400 minus 2,200, and that will give you 200. So that's the mean for D. But we are asked the standard deviation. So let me tell you this now. You cannot do this. You cannot take standard deviation of B minus standard deviation of A, right? You can't minus standard deviation. You got to remember you cannot minus standard deviation. So what can you do with this? If you cannot minus, what can you do? So you have this new thing that you need to consider. It's called variance. So variance, right? Variance is actually standard deviation, and you square it. Now, you can add variance, right? You can add variance, but you cannot subtract variance. So, and so we need to figure out, okay, let's add up the variance first, right? So what's the variance of this? So B minus A, which is the variance of B plus variance of A, and that will give you the variance of D, right? So D is here. D, that's the D, the new random variable. D, the difference between the number of calories. And then we need to calculate the variance of B. Now we do not minus, right? We don't minus standard deviation. We don't minus variance. We have to add. Then add variance of A. So we said that the variance is what? Is a sigma square, right? Standard deviation square. So variance of B is right here. Standard deviation of B, you square it. So 400 you square plus variance of A, standard deviation square, 300 you square. So, and let me use my calculator. 400 square plus 300 square, that gives us 250,000, right? 250,000. But that's for variance though. That's for variance of D, right? Variance of D is 250,000. So to get standard deviation of D, right? Since we know that variance is square of standard deviation, to get back standard deviation, we have to take the square root of variance, right? We have to take the square root of variance. So we take square root of 250,000, and that would give us, actually I would just use the calculator. So square root, there's a sign square root here. So second square root 250,000. 200, so one more zero. 250,000. 500, right? 500. So we know So we now know that the standard deviation is 500. So let's look at what my options are. I have standard deviation is 100, 200, 500, and 700. So we know it's going to be 500. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, another standard deviation. So let's go. A large bakery uses a machine to dispense frosting onto its cookies. A certain type of cookies get 4 dots of frosting on top of each cookie. The dots of frosting has a mean of mu equals to 3 grams and a standard deviation of sigma equals to 0.25. So basically you have a cookie, right? You have a cookie and then the frosting 4 dots, right? 4 dots. And the dot has some mass, right? And the mean of those dots is 3 grams and the standard deviation is 0.25. We can assume that the masses of the dots or frostings are independent from each other. Let T be the total of the 4 dots. So let's say dot number 1 plus dot number 2 plus dot number 3 plus dot number 4. Okay, so you have 4 dots there. Now, remember what I said earlier that in order to find standard deviation of t, we cannot add standard deviation, we cannot subtract standard deviation, we can only add variance, right? We can only add variance, which is square, right? Sigma square. So variance of t is the same as variance of d plus variance of d plus variance of d, variance of d plus variance of d 4 times, because there are 4 variables separately. Yeah, we are combining them. So variance of d is the same as sigma d square, right? Sigma d square, sigma d square, sigma d square. And sigma d is 0.25. So it's 0.25 square plus 0.25 square plus 0.25 square plus 0.225 square, which is 4 times, right, of 0.25 square, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You just multiply by 4. So use our calculator. So I'll take 0.25. Now there's a square button here. I'll square it. So 0.0625. Then I multiply that by 4. So I get back 0.25. Ooh, how cool is that? So we now know this is 0.25. But they asked us to find standard deviation of t. The variance now is 0.25. Variance of t is equals to 0.25. Now we know that variance is sigma t squared equals to 0.25. To find sigma t, right, standard deviation of t, we have to take the square root of 0.25, and that gives us 0.5, right? That gives us 0.5. And of all the answer here, 0.5. All right. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But we'll end here. Thank you very much.